Tayla went to a meeting, like a workshop, and they just had data specifically around the Sunshine Coast, just on what companies are struggling with and challenges that they have.
Yeah,
so we thought that could be really interesting.
Yeah. It was hosted by the Regional Jobs Committee here for the Sunshine Coast. And it was really interesting just to see the pain points around talent and finding talent for businesses. And I think they said that there was around 30 or 40 businesses that attended just for that one section. It was really interesting. They had this live stats thing happening.
It's a platform where you could just input your details.
Yeah, and it was really interesting. So we thought that it might be worth speaking about today. And just sort of I guess if people are wanting to relocate to the Sunshine Coast, what is available in terms of companies, and then also business owners in terms of it's not just them struggling with these things. It is across board here on the sunny coast. I think because we're a regional community and it is hard to find good talent here as well. So, but that's only getting better. I think the Sunshine Coast is going to boom. So with that, there was a lot of types of businesses that were there as well. So there was, I might do percentage. So 32% of the companies who were there hire 200 plus people. And then you had the next highest one was 20 to 199 employees, which was 21%. And then the next one was 1 to 4. So you can see that there is sort of the majority of the companies here do hire a lot of staff, and they need staff to be here as well. But then you've also got your sole traders, people who don't employ. So that was at 11% as well, which is also very interesting because I think the Sunshine Coast does have quite a big entrepreneurial community and a spirit as well. So that was really interesting to see actually the stats in front of your face. And just think what we see.
Yes, and I think what we're also seeing from this data, I think it's not just the challenges, not necessarily the percentages, which would be really interesting to see if Brisbane and then the other major cities are percentage-wise experiencing the same. But I think when we get to the challenges, what was highlighted, I think that's universal across most organizations. We are, from everything that I'm hearing, just not just in our recruitment community, but outside as well, as that the market's tightening up a little bit, which usually happens around the end of financial year. It's almost like there's a bit of a contraction. Things are put on hold, projects are put on hold until we've got the new budgets and what that looks like going forward. So yes, we are definitely in a bit more of a contracted market from what I'm hearing, but that's normal. There's nothing abnormal about that market at all. And again, like we've always said, good talent. We're literally did reference checks for a candidate this morning. So good candidates will still find opportunities. It might just be percentage-wise a bit less.
Yeah. And what we also found interesting, so the growth of the Sunshine Coast is only going to get bigger with all of with Aura and even BUR East or West, I think it is, huge big development there. So with that, businesses will naturally grow as well. So interesting enough, in the next sort of 1 to 3 years, the business growth, 29% said that they were unsure, but another 29% also said that they're looking to expand between 11 and 20%. So that's 11 to 20% increase in staff. And then you had 7% at plus 50%. So seeing those stats, like there is a lot of growth and businesses are looking to grow within the next 1 to 3 years as well, which again, we're going to need talent for that growth too.
That's a positive sentiment in the market. And again, it would be interesting to see, because obviously, Tayla, your focus is here on the sunny coast and getting more focused on the sunny coast, but we still work nationally to be able to see how that actually relates to other cities, and if there is a positive sentiment about growth and expansion with other organizations. That'll be interesting stats, and we might be able to see that from the ABS stats, and maybe our next conversation could be around nationally what's happening and how's the market responding at the moment.
Sure. I think it would be interesting to compare it nationally to what's relevant to
local.
Local.
Absolutely.
Or even just Brisbane to local.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be really interesting.
And what the benefit is for you, I think, future-wise with the Sunshine Coast is that the accessibility will just become easier and easier. And who wouldn't want to wake up close to the beach and be able to jump on a train and get to Brisbane within an hour and a half? I mean, a lot of commuting in Brisbane takes an hour and a half. So I think, yes, the growth is there, but I think it will also make, just from an infrastructure perspective, the coast will become more accessible to talent as well. So you wouldn't necessarily just have to work in Brisbane. Have that as a consideration. There potentially will be more opportunities here on the coast for talent.
Definitely. Even in that, and that just reminded me, there is a couple of Brisbane-based companies who are starting offices here on the Sunshine Coast. So even that's saying something, like those big courts are now starting something here. So that's
and we've got Sydney companies that have a presence here in the Sunshine Coast. So there's a positive vibe across business within the coast, and I'm not seeing or hearing that same sentiment when I'm on networking groups that are Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne based, even Canberra based, but that might also just be the time of the year that we find ourselves in.
Well, and it happens this time every year is always the same.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Another one that I found really interesting was, what is the single most pressing current workforce issue? And I love this because this is our bread and butter. This is where we come in. So the first one was finding skilled workers, retention, training, and development.
Yeah.
So I think, and salary as well. So obviously Sunshine Coast is regional, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, they're all city. So we're not going to have the same salaries as those companies, but what we can offer is less commute, more time with your family, flexible working arrangements, all of that. So that's something that the bigger companies are dealing with at the moment here on the Sunshine Coast. And even just being here for the last 5 months, I get it, I understand it, but finding that talent and the retention of them as well.
And I think that's a universal challenge for organizations, is that retention side of it. What was interesting that came up was housing. And again, I think that is not just a regional issue or challenge for people. I literally saw a post from a lady that is moving to regional Queensland because she's just struggling with the cost of living and housing specifically in the major cities. So she's moving, and luckily her organization allows her to work fully remotely to be able to afford to still work with them and not move companies and be in a regional area. And again, economically, I think that there's benefit there, because you're moving to a regional area, you're spending in a regional area, which would economically uplift that regional area, which will create jobs. So there's positives in all the moves, but housing came up, which I thought was really interesting.
So that was a really big one that was spoken about on one occasion in the meeting. And there was companies that have aligned themselves with the local agencies to then hopefully get better, like be able to, the company will support them to get a rental or something like that, or offer a relocation package. But again, that relocation package, they still need to find something. So I think with what I saw, it's very much community driven, and the companies are connecting with other companies to then help the community, if that makes sense. Like they're aligning themselves with the real estate agents, which will then allow their new employees to be able to have a direct contact instead of just applying and seeing what
not knowing exactly, and not knowing. So from a cultural perspective for organizations, that's huge, because it's almost before you employ someone, when you're starting to have the conversations, is what do we offer as an organization. Is we do offer relocation, but not just here's a few $1,000s in your bank account. It's literally connecting you with people on the ground that we as an organization trust to be able to help you in your relocation process. And that's one example. So yeah, from a cultural perspective and value add, and that value piece that an organization can get across to an potential new candidate, that's huge.
Yeah, definitely.
And schooling, if you've got kids, if you're relocating kids, that's schools, because obviously that's important. Which schools are good schools? What are you looking for? What does that look like? So just that whole peace of mind going, okay, I've got 1 or 2 people that are recommended to me that have done this, and the organization assists with that. A little bit of peace of mind.
For sure.
So positive from our side in terms of what the future looks like and where things are heading. Exciting.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity up here, and I'm very excited to be here on the ground, learning and developing and doing all of that, because I really do think that the opportunities are going to be endless here soon. And like how good you get the best of both worlds. You get a regional beach community with city jobs.
Yes. Amazing.
Yeah. Another one that was really good as well that a lot of the companies do here is that they do align themselves with the local schools and universities to then support the talent coming through, which I thought was really good. And I think the university does have a lot of good talent coming through, especially in the tech industry as well, but it is finding the right businesses to house those people coming out of their university degrees as a graduate or an intern. So I think there's a lot in there as well that can improve, that hopefully will be more readily available from those.
But the building blocks are there. The building blocks are the pipeline, it's already sitting in motion.
Yeah, definitely. So it was a big insight for me, and I was grateful to be a part of it, and just I guess being new to the Sunshine Coast still. Well, I'm not like super new, but I am still new to the coast. Just hearing what the struggles are, and for me it was just like light bulb moments the whole way through, and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm here to do. Now I know exactly what their pain points are, although I already kind of knew what they were, but they're in my face, and it's exciting.
Very exciting, and I'm excited to be part of it.
For sure.